Hey everyone, this quick webisode topic today is on how to choose a behavior to tackle when you're designing your conservation program. So we're working on big environmental problems that we're looking to solve. Some of these are very complicated, like reducing or eliminating the hunting of endangered species. These could be time-bound problems, like how do we get a critical environmental law or regulation passed that we need passed right away. Some of these are probably on paper, seemingly easy behaviors, like how do we reduce littering? How do we get more people to recycle so that we have less waste? But really in all of these problems, what we're talking about is humans and their behavior and figuring out how to motivate people to do something different or something entirely new. And these lead us to ask questions like, how do we shift status symbols away from ivory or other animal-based products towards something that may be more sustainable? How do we jumpstart people out of apathy and into action when we need people to petition policymakers for a particular cause? And even how do we nudge and guide and prompt people to put their waste in the right bins and to recycle more often? But it's really never quite that simple. Humans are complicated, they're complex, and it's often never just one behavior we're trying to change. We see it tends to be a series or a sequence or a set of behaviors that we're trying to address. And this leads us to kind of have a lot of these questions and these challenges of which one do we address in our program? There are a lot of them. We tend to have limited resources because we're working in, the nonprofit field or government or academia, and we can't necessarily address all of them at the same time. So I'm going to walk through 4 steps that I've seen and have used over my years on how to dig into and identify which of these behaviors is going to be worth your time addressing. So the first step is really understanding the problem. Our tendency, I see this over and over again, is we want to jump to the solution. This is how we solve it. This is how we help people. And that's great. Like those tend to be beautiful ideas, but we first need to really, really understand which problem we're trying to solve. Or else we'll, kind of use our resources in vain, potentially solving problems that aren't at the root cause. So I'm going to use an example. This is one that we all may be somewhat familiar with, which is the problem of being slightly overweight. Let's say it's 10 pounds overweight. So this is the problem we'd want to solve. Now behind this problem, there's a lot of behavioral causes. These could be things like eating sweets late at night, sitting too much at work, so being too sedentary overall, eating out more than you're cooking, and this is, the behavior that sometimes food that you eat out at a restaurant is less healthy than what you make at home, serving too large of portion sizes, and not exercising regularly. Now, this is certainly not an exhaustive list. This could go on and on. This is like a first set of things that could contribute to the problem of being 10 pounds overweight. Now behind this, there's a whole other subset of causes. So not exercising regularly might be caused by not having a set workout routine. So you don't have something you can consistently do time and time again. Serving too large of portions could mean at home your plate sizes are too large, or you're not eating regularly during the day, so you're just gorging yourself at night. Totally guilty of that. Sitting too much at work could be almost a cultural issue if you're working in a place where you don't feel like it's okay to leave your desk and have a walk or go to the gym. So you can see how there could be layers upon layers upon layers of this as you dig in and understand more of what's causing some of these behaviors. So if we look at this from the perspective of a conservation issue, especially a big complicated one like hunting of endangered species, some of the causes behind that may be there's, high profits for wildlife products. That's a big one we see over and over again. There's a low risk of getting caught, a cultural tradition of hunting is socially acceptable, and a lack of other income sources. And again, behind this, there may be a whole other subset of reason. The species is not even liked. People see it as a pest. You receive rewards, either financial or social rewards for doing the hunting. There's a high need for income and low economic opportunities. So you got to dig in more and more, and some ways of doing that is just continually to ask why. Why is this happening? Why is there, rewards, and why is it socially acceptable? Why is there a low risk of getting caught? And you keep digging into further and further layers. Some best practices of doing this to really understand the problem, and again, I'm showing sort of a loose problem tree format. You can do this with a concept model, logic frame. There's a bunch of tools for it, but these best practices apply no matter what. You should really do it with a group of people so you're getting multiple perspectives. This could be community members, experts, stakeholders, partners, what have you. But just to ensure it's not only your perspective, you're getting inputs from other people. Similarly, you can do it multiple times with different groups and start to compare the differences and the similarities across these diagrams. Fill it in based on experience and research, not just on your own assumptions. And again, I'm a big believer in this. Keep asking why. Keep digging and finding out more. So then the next step is identifying the most direct causes. So we have a lot of causes in our diagram, but which ones are contributing most directly to the problem? And I'm going to go back to the weight loss one. So we can see here, I'm going to point out the not exercising regularly. So not exercising regularly could lead me to sitting too much at work, because I'm just kind of in a sedentary lifestyle. So if I were to change the exercise part, I would be burning more calories, which means I would have a direct impact on the problem, a positive impact. So that could be a direct cause. If I exercise more regularly, I'm burning more calories and ideally losing more weight. Similarly, little arrow is going to go around, too large portion sizes. So if I'm eating too much, so I'm serving myself too much, then that actually impacts, one, I'm consuming too many calories, so I'm, gaining weight, which is an issue. But also that could make these other behaviors more negative behaviors. So eating out and eating sweets late at night aren't necessarily a problem within themselves, but they're a problem if I'm eating too much during those time periods. So we would identify that as a direct cause. So you see, everything is causing, but some, if you have an impact in, will have a more positive impact on reducing the problem you're trying to solve. This gets really complicated. And certainly when you look at something as complex as hunting of endangered species, you want to bring in experts, you want to bring in stakeholders, you want to reference research that's already out there, conduct some new research to find out which of these causes, and whatever causes are in your diagram, are having the biggest impact on the problem, and which ones, if you were to change, would have the biggest positive impact on the problem. But it still leads a question of which one should you address? So you may have a few direct causes to your problem, but not all of them your organization or your program will have the resources and the capability to address. So it's another layer of consideration to figure out which behaviors you want to tackle. One way I really like to approach this is to be asking the question of, is this behavior changeable with the resources available, and will changing that behavior produce the desired impact? So changeable means, is it feasible and realistic to expect this community to change their behavior? Resources available, this is internal. The program you're running, does it have the staff, the time period, the expertise, the money to actually do this? So are the resources available to tackle what you're thinking about tackling? And will it produce the desired impact? Meaning, are you going to see results if you make this change in the behavior? This often requires going a little bit deeper into some of the direct causes that you've identified. I'm going to pick one out here from the hunting example. So one of the direct causes was it's socially acceptable to be hunting endangered species. If we dig in, we can clarify and make it more specific. So this means that the current state of behavior we find is the community finds it socially acceptable for members to hunt endangered species. Okay, that's where things stand now. So we can then identify what we want it to be, so our desired end state. Community members are vocal and active about members not hunting endangered species. That would be our wish list. That's what we would love to see at the end of a project. We still have to ask, is this changeable? So is it realistic to go from A to B? Do we have the resources to make this happen? This is going to involve a lot of outreach, a lot of engagement, a lot of communication. Do we have the time, money, and staff to make that happen? And if we achieve this desired end state, is it going to produce the desired impact on the problem we're trying to solve? These are big questions, but really important to answer. Another thing to consider is there a behavior you could change that would naturally produce a positive impact on another behavior? So sort of like the chain reaction, which can help determine, do you have to solve all of them at a given time? So exercising more regularly, certainly it can reduce a sedentary lifestyle. I've been sitting too long. After this email, I'm taking a stroll. I got to get up. I feel like being more mobile and physical. But it could also have another positive impact of changing eating habits because you are exercising more regularly. You want to keep those calories off. You're feeling better about yourself. So I think I'm going to get the grilled chicken instead of the burger. These things combined can have a positive impact on the end goal, which is reducing that 10 pounds of being overweight. So this is an example of how one behavior change can lead to multiple other behaviors you're trying to address. Something to consider when you're looking at your diagram. So last but not least, and I don't have other slides on this, but it's really important to continually check in and assess how your progress is going with the behavior you've chosen. One, people, communities change all the time, so you want to see, are things shifting? Did something new come up that I didn't anticipate? But how is progress going on this? Do we need to adjust? I always encourage continually getting qualitative and quantitative research to check in about progress, check in how the community is being receptive to the messages you're putting out there or your interpersonal communication you're putting out there, and then adjust as needed. You never want this to be static. This needs to be iterative. It needs to be live and organic. So please continue to check in along the way. So thank you for tuning into this webisode. I want to let you know I run training workshops on topics like this and a whole lot more. They can be from 3 hours to 3 days, however, whatever level of depth you want to get down to. Please check out more information at my site, brooktully.com, and email me at any time if you want to chat or if you have questions, brooke@brooktully.com. Thanks. Bye.